What's going on, guys, and welcome to my top 10 Spider-Man villains. Now, this video was requested by Eddie Brock Venom. Now, I gotta say, before we start the video, I just want to say this list was very challenging to make. Props to Eddie Brock Venom. He really made me think about, like, what is my favorite Spider-Man villain? It made me even question, like, what are my favorite types of villains, because normally I don't sit here and think to myself, what's my favorite villain or top 10 villains. So props and thanks to Eddie Brock Venom. And just want to say, I want to know what your guys' favorite top 10 Spider-Man villains are in the comments below. And anyway, let's get into this. Let's just jump right into this. So, number 10 is the Shocker. Now, I know some of you are probably shocked, like, oh, Shocker, why Shocker? I pick Shocker because he's kind of, the basic, villain for Spidey. Of course, a member of the Sinister Six. He is a handful. Now, there are a lot of iterations where he's not really a huge deal for him, and sometimes Spider-Man can even make it easy and just, like, knock him straight out or, web him up. So it's not really, like, a huge issue for him as far as, like, a villain to fight, but he can be a handful. Like, an example of that, I think, would be, like, in the recent Spider-Man PS4 trailer that we got, where Shocker punches Spider-Man straight in the face and right into the door of the bank vault, knocking it clean off. That really shows how powerful Shocker can be with those gauntlets. And he is a handful for Spidey at times. So, my number 9 is the Chameleon. I didn't really know who the Chameleon was growing up. I never really seen him in any other iteration lately, except for the animated series and the Spectacular Spider-Man series, but I feel like I saw him more in the animated series where he would, had more surprises. There were a lot of moments in Spider-Man where, even in the comics, where he is just, pretending to be someone he knew or something like that. So it's real cool and really interesting twist when all of a sudden, where you think, for example, oh, it's the chief of police, but instead it's really the Chameleon, for example, or it's someone like, for example, in the animated series where it's someone that MJ knows, but instead it's the Chameleon, So it's really cool how the Chameleon can do these twists and get the jump on Spider-Man sometimes, even if his spider sense goes off, because it's one of those villains where you don't know which one's which. So I like that. I like that about this character. He's very tricky for Spider-Man. But his spider sense does give him the edge. Number 8, Scorpion. Scorpion, I feel like, again, another classy character, another member of the Sinister Six, He's classy, Scorpion, he's got the tail, he's got the acid in the tail. Like, he's just, I really like his backstory where in the animated series, where he, is, where the suit gets stuck to his body because of JJ, and Spider-Man's got to defend JJ. I remembered that episode. I really liked that episode. I really do like Scorpion, even though I don't have a lot to say about him, unfortunately. Who knows? Maybe we get Scorpion in Spider-Man PS4. Who knows? Number 7, I gave it to Rhino. Rhino, again, is another member of the Sinister Six, which I'm guessing that you've seen a pattern here a little bit. Rhino is a big handful for him because he's probably one of the strongest enemies that Spider-Man has ever faced. He comes at him like a train, so, I mean, he can easily avoid it, but when he does get hit, it hurts. So Rhino is one of those very strong and very hard enemies for Spider-Man to just fight hand to hand. So Spider-Man's got to think outside the box and try to figure out how to, take him down always. And usually it always involves him jumping over him or something, like Mario from Mario. So yeah. Another thing I do like about these villains, though, is I love how Spider-Man always has to figure out a way to take all of them down. Like for example, with Scorpion, he would like grab his tail and throw him or something, or with Shocker, he'd web up the gloves. You know, things like that. I really like. I like how in the comics or in the TV show, he always got to figures a very unique way of taking down the enemies or weaknesses that he can point out, stuff like that. But moving on to number 6, Mysterio. I really love all the jokes that Spider-Man makes about Mysterio, especially like the fishbowl. Like I think one of the best jokes I think was when Spider-Man 2 the game where he's like, "Okay, I'll bite. How did the fishbowl get stuck on your head?" But yeah, or like the one where he was like, "I think I had a box of Mysterios for breakfast." But yeah, I really do like this character though. Jokes aside, I like how he can, play with Spider-Man easily. I think one of the best episodes of Mysterio, one of the best, not the best, but one of the best, is the Spectacular Spider-Man series where Spider-Man had to trust his spider sense in order to know which Mysterio is which. I love that when Mysterio can like make more of himself through smoke and mirrors, stuff like that. Mysterio is very unique. He plays all these tricks. Another one of these villains who plays tricks on Spider-Man, and again, Spider Sense gives him the edge. But if he's not paying attention to it, if he's not using it, then obviously he's gonna be tricked. But yeah, Mysterio. I really do like Mysterio. I do. Number 5. Kingpin. Now, but some of you are thinking, well, that's from Daredevil, the Daredevil series. He's not a Spider-Man villain. Gotta get a little nerdy and comic book on ya. Kingpin was actually one of Spider-Man's villains, not Daredevil's. Daredevil's, it eventually kind of went to Daredevil as his own villain in the future. But when it started was with Kingpin was Spider-Man. He was a Spider-Man villain first. And greatly so. He was this crime boss of all the gangs. And, there have been really good comics, and even in the animated series, he was a main villain in that. And a good one, mind you. Like, always working with Alistair Smythe to, get what he wants or take down Spider-Man, things like that. Just, but yeah, he was first a Spider-Man villain, and he's strong. Like, I think one of the best moments of strength I've ever seen from him was in the Spider-Man 3 video game, where he's just grabbing him and he's throwing him around. He's really strong, and, people, you can make fun of him all you want, how he's this big tubby guy, but he's pretty strong. He's pretty strong. Even in the Daredevil series, they showed how incredibly strong he can be. But yeah. So number 4 is Carnage. Carnage is the most villainous of villains you can ever have in probably any comic book, to be honest with you. Carnage, I think of Carnage like I think of Doomsday. Like, just pure destruction, pure evil, pure hatred. Just this pure evil guy. And there have been a lot of gruesome, bloody comics. And if you can stomach it and read it, I mean, this guy is seriously mental and mentally screwed up in the head. He doesn't care about anything. He all he cares about is death. Like, this guy is just beyond crazy. But yeah, he is a he's probably even maybe a more harder enemy to fight than Venom, for example, because of just how evil he is and the things he'll do to make Spider-Man choose or whatever. Things like that. But anyway, let's move on to number 3. Now, my 3, 2, and 1 was a little hard because I really like all these villains. And this was a little complicated for me, but I eventually was this. I honestly was able to figure this out more quickly than I was with the other ones. But my number 3 is Dr. Octopus. I wanted to give Dr. Octopus to my number 2, but I think that the second one, deserved it more, which I will say later. Dr. Octopus, I think I gave it to Dr. Octopus because I liked how they made Dr. Octopus more of a threat lately in the comics. Like the best example and probably the most memorable things I think all comic book fans know is, when Dr. Octopus switched bodies with Peter and became the superior Spider-Man, things like that. That was pretty bizarre when he was able to trick Spider-Man like that, and he is smart. He's very smart, and in Spider-Man 2, he's got those 4 arms, can just keep grabbing Spidey because he's got all these arms, and Spider-Man's got to dodge all of them. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because he's got his arms too, but maybe even his legs. I don't know, but yeah, his arms, man. I remember when I saw Spider-Man 2, I thought I was watching a horror movie at my age when I saw the tentacles come to life and start killing all those people. Like, it was wow. I can't believe you got away with that, Raimi, man. Good job. PG-13. But yeah, Dr. Octopus, for me, number 3, totally. Number 2 is Green Goblin. I don't really have to explain why. I mean, a lot of you should understand why, because honestly, it's really simple, actually, because in the comics, when Green Goblin, killed Gwen, he figured out who Peter Parker was, and then he killed Gwen and changed a lot of the ways that comics were made, and, it just changed everything. It just changed so much just because of Gwen Stacy's death. And, it really hit Peter hard. And, you killed the woman I love, like, wow, it's really, I mean, he's pretty evil too, but not as evil as Carnage, obviously, but Green Goblin, man, he can be pretty bad when he wants to be, so Green Goblin, my number 2. Now, my number 1, I bet some of you have already guessed what this is. It's Venom. It's obviously Venom. The reason why I picked Venom was because when I was growing up, when I was watching the animated series, I liked how Venom was almost this dark version of Spider-Man, where he has all his powers, he can climb walls, he can jump very far, he can web sling. He is also immune to Spider-Man's spider sense, which makes him an even more, deadly opponent. And he's got the giant mouth with the tongue, and the teeth, and he's scary too. He looks scary. Like, when you look at him, even I remember when in the comics when he turned into Anti-Venom, Eddie Brock, and I remember playing Edge of Time, and I think one of the reasons why I liked Edge of Time so much was because I liked how he killed him. He straight up killed him, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, if you think about it, a lot of these enemies, if not all of them, could kill him at any time, so when you think about it like that, maybe not Shocker, maybe not Scorpion, or Mysterio, maybe Mysterio, or Kingpin. Kingpin could just say fuck it and just order a whole assault on Spider-Man. Or, Carnage can just straight up be like, you know what, forget this, I'm gonna cut your head off. Or, Dr. Octopus can be like, forget it, I'm gonna grab you with my arms, I'm gonna drown you, or something. Or Green Goblin's gonna be like, forget it, I know who you are now, I'm gonna go blow you up with my pumpkin bombs. So, but I really, again, back to the subject, Venom is immune to his spider sense. Spider-Man doesn't know when he's gonna attack. So I bought that when I was like, oh my gosh, he's dead. Like, he killed him. Like, he straight up killed him. Like, he can straight up kill him whenever he wants to. So it is kind of scary how sometimes he's at the mercy of some of his villains, or, especially Venom or Carnage, where they're immune to the spider sense. So it's a handful. Especially Venom. I always felt like Venom was one of the biggest enemies for him to fight, was because he's got all of his powers and abilities. He's stronger than him. He's faster than him. He is immune to the spider sense. Venom, I always felt like, has been one of his most ultimate villains because... And you can argue that for Green Goblin. You can argue that for Dr. Octopus. But for me, it's always been Venom because of this darker persona that he represents of Spider-Man. And speaking of Venom, we got the Venom movie coming out soon, and I'll do a review on that. Anything involving Spider-Man I want to cover, of course. And yeah, guys, that was my top 10 list. Again, let me know what your favorite top 10 list is in the comments below. And until then, guys, I'm out of here. Up, and away. See you guys.